So there's an article on Quora and Newsweek titled, "Why Do People Hate Hillary Clinton?" And, of course, it's hilarious. So you would think that in writing this article, what they'll do is provide a fairly objective perspective and say, we should be clear up front that there's multiple camps of people who dislike Hillary. On the one hand, you have strident right-wingers who've hated her from the second she came onto the public scene, and they have a lot of irrational hatred directed towards her. They never gave her a chance, and they simply dislike her because she's a left-winger. That would be a fair thing to say that if you also said, oh, and there's also people to Hillary's left who dislike her, people who are, for example, supporters of Bernie Sanders, who understand that she is the ultimate political insider and that that can cause some problems when it comes to looking out for your constituents, that the incentive structure is wrong and she's going to serve the donors and stuff. So do they try for even a split second to be really fair and objective and nuanced in their analysis? Not even close. So let's go through some of the reasons here. This is what they say. Number one, quote, "We know enough about her to know that she isn't magical." That's why people don't like Hillary Clinton? Because she can't do magic? That's the argument that you're going to make? That's the number one reason, according to these jackasses, why people don't like Hillary Clinton. I mean, come on. She doesn't know how to do voodoo. She doesn't know how to go alakazam, alakazoo, bloody-blue, blue, and fix the deficit or, fix healthcare in America. She doesn't have a magic wand, so therefore, I don't like her. Obviously, I need somebody to be a magician. That would seem to be disproven simply by the fact that we know quite a bit about President Obama, and his approval rating is tremendous. His approval rating is over 50%, and he's been in office for 2 full terms. So this idea of when you get to know her and she's not a magician and she's been on the public stage, what are you going to do? People just don't like her. Well, people know Obama, and a majority of people like him. Historically, compared to other presidents at this time, he's way more popular. So just using the Obama example alone, your entire argument is destroyed. But they continue. They say, "Society has created the unrealistic idea that a president should be a magical leader who never makes mistakes. In practice, no such magical leaders exist, but the expectation that presidents should be magical means that we turn against potential leaders when we discover that they, like all people before them, aren't magical." Oh, what a deep analysis you gave us here. I can't believe somebody wrote this with a straight face. Because you know what? That doesn't even apply to the idiot right-wingers who hate Hillary Clinton. It doesn't. It's not like they sat around and were like, I really wish that Hillary Clinton was magical, in which case I wouldn't mind her so much. But she ain't magical, and, that's the problem right there. That's not what they're saying. What kind of an argument is that? All right, let's go to the second one. "Her cautious approach to the media allows opponents to define her by caricature. While Hillary's cautious approach may have avoided gaffes, it has also made it hard for her to define herself and allowed her opponents to define her by caricature." Okay, so here's another possible interpretation. She's avoiding being in the media because she knows there actually is quite a bit of dirt on her. And she has made some horrific decisions, and she has contradicted herself and flip-flopped a trillion times, and she has been beholden to donors. Therefore, if you let Trump go out there and self-destruct because he's in front of the media every 14 seconds, well, then it's going to work out for you now, isn't it? So now that might be a smart move on strategic grounds. In fact, I agree it is a smart move on strategic grounds. The proof is in the pudding as it is right now, how she's up a lot because he's been talking endlessly, and she's like, I'm going to shut the fuck up and go in the corner here. But that doesn't change the fact that, your breakdown of the situation is incorrect. It's not like it's just the fact that she's not in the media's eye that allow people to dislike her, because when she gets in the media's eye, people don't like her either. The third thing is, quote, "She is a woman. Let's not pretend that sexism, particularly unconscious sexism, doesn't exist." Oh, well, isn't that adorable? So they know that at this point, it's too strong a comment and too preposterous to say, well, it's because she's a woman and there's overt sexism. So what do? They dodge by saying, no, I didn't say overt sexism. There's a lot of particularly unconscious sexism. So in other words, you people who don't like Hillary, you're sexist and you don't even know it. You're just sexist. This may be one of the worst articles I've ever read in my life. Those are the 3 reasons right there. She's not magical. She's not in the media enough, so she's defined by caricature by her opponents, and she's a woman. This is why people don't like Hillary Clinton. Now, again, so, are there people who really do just have an irrational hatred of Hillary? And honestly, I'd go further and say almost all Democrats this crowd hates. They have this irrational hatred of Democrats. Yes, that exists, and I'm more than happy to discuss it, and I discuss it all the time. There are people in the country. For example, here's a good clue that you're dealing with one of those people. Benghazi. If they keep bringing up Benghazi, when there were 9 different investigations that cleared Hillary Clinton of any wrongdoing. And many of those investigations were Republican-led investigations. So they weren't going in it, to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. They were going in it because they wanted to take her down, and they couldn't find anything to take her down because she was Secretary of State at the time, and all the conspiracy theories were just that, conspiracy theories. She ordered to stand down to make it so that the people in Benghazi, who are our people, were going to die because she wanted them to fucking die. These are some things that idiots believe. So you want to say that they have an irrational hatred against her? I 100% agree, and I'll lead the charge in arguing against those morons with you. So you can bring that up, that's fine. But what you're dodging here, and you're doing it in the grossest possible way, are all the legitimate critics of Hillary Clinton who really are just concerned about big money. I mean, there's no denying that Hillary Clinton is the ultimate political insider. She just is. She just is. So, the Clinton family, over the course of their careers, they've raised over $3 billion from special interests. $3 billion. That's when you include the Clinton Foundation, the various super PACs, the various campaigns, the various amounts of money that went directly into their pocket through speeches. So, I mean, think about that. When you take that much money from special interests, do you really think that they are not going to represent those special interests or take those phone calls or do favoritism or do pay to play with them when they're in positions of power? Of course they're going to do it. Why? Because they're human beings, and that's human nature, and that's a basic incentive structure problem. So they're not above the fray. It's not like, well, no, that doesn't affect us, bro. If you give me $1 million, I'll tell you to fuck right off, and I'll take your call the same way I'd take the call of a 78-year-old grandma in Cleveland. Except you won't, and we're not stupid. We know how it works. We know that you have flipped your positions based on money. The bankruptcy bill is just one example. Elizabeth Warren was the one who spoke about this. And she said, well, when she was not an elected official, when Hillary was first lady, she was on the side of being against the corporations because this bankruptcy bill biased the bankruptcy laws in favor of corporations. So she was like, no, I'm against that. Okay, great, awesome. Then when she ran to be senator from New York and she won, she flipped on it. Why? Because she took money from the corporations. So now she's like, well, what am I going to do? I took their money. I guess I got to do their bidding. So she flipped on that bill. Same thing with single-payer healthcare. People say, oh, there's no quid pro quo. Before she fucking took all the money from the health industry, she was for single-payer healthcare. After she took it all, now all of a sudden it's, Obamacare, tweaks around the edges, keep the private insurance companies in control, let Big Pharma keep ripping us off. But yeah, I want some reform, just, single-payer might go a little too far, you know what I'm saying? Now, recently, she's been pushed further left because Bernie forced her left because he's saying single-payer, single-payer, single-payer. So she's like, okay, my arm's twisted, maybe public option, we'll do a public option, maybe. So her rhetoric has gone further left on that, but she's still not at single payer, and you could clearly see that she flipped her vote. So this happens all the time, man, and you have Bernie supporters, people on the left who've been saying this from day one, and they're right to say this, but you have Democratic loyalist hacks who want to portray all dissent of the dear leader Hillary as some sort of irrational hatred. It's not irrational hatred when you say, we're against the Iraq War. She voted for the Iraq War. Minimum 100,000 civilians died in that war. She voted for the Patriot Act. That ripped up the Constitution. You could forget the Fourth Amendment and protection from unreasonable search and seizure. So habeas corpus, gone. Due process, gone also. She voted for that. So we don't like the fact she voted for Iraq. We don't like the fact she voted for the Patriot Act. We don't like the fact that she's leading the charge to try to get us more involved in Syria. We don't like the fact that she did that with Libya. We don't like the decisions that she made. We covered a story on the show. She approved a child soldier exemption for South Sudan. Isn't that crazy? So we don't obviously something affected her there, whether it was donations from the defense contractors or donations to the Clinton Foundation from somebody involved with South Sudan politics. But whatever the fuck it is, she approved a child soldier exemption for South Sudan, so they're allowed to have it because they're our buddy. So when actual liberals and progressives point this out, for you to say, well, no, all the criticism of Hillary is because people are mad she's not magical. People are mad that that she's not in the press enough and they can caricature her, and people just hate her because she's a woman because everybody's so sexist who disagrees with her. You've just made a monumental ass of yourself. So stop with the hacky tactics here. And by the way, you know what you're also doing? Undermining real instances of sexism. Because you're doing Boy Who Cried Wolf. Oh my God, you're so sexist, you're so sexist, you're so sexist because you don't like Hillary Clinton. And then what's going to happen? When you talk about sexism in a real case of sexism, people are going to go, here we go again with the fucking faux cries of sexism. So the people who over-defend, nobody gets me more mad than the people who over-defend Hillary. Because they think that because she's running against a fascist buffoon monster who doesn't know anything, that therefore it necessitates we must argue Hillary is an angel in every conceivable way. That's not a winning argument, and that's a ridiculous argument. And the only chance you have of winning people over is to be honest about the reality of the situation. Pull in Eminem from 8 Mile. Here's all the things that are wrong with Hillary, but by the way, you really don't think that she's better than this other guy? Who you're really going to trust that motherfucker with the nuclear launch codes when he gets in Twitter fights at 3 o'clock in the morning with Demi Lovato, as the Bill Maher joke goes? I mean, there's an argument to be made there that they're both as bad as it gets, but come on, don't be an idiot. One is worse. Not everybody's going to accept that argument, but people are going to be more receptive to that argument because it's certainly closer to true than saying, oh no, everybody who disagrees with Hillary is just sexist and they are mad because she doesn't do magic.